Welcome to Biomed Explorer. In this video, I'd like to talk about the human skeletal muscles. In this video, I'll discuss what skeletal muscle actually is, how a single thought turns into a full-body movement, the hidden machinery inside every muscle fiber that makes contraction possible, the different types of fibers your body relies on for different jobs, the support team of tendons and nerves working behind the scenes, and the major jobs this system does every single day to keep you moving. So, let's get started. What is skeletal muscle? Most people know muscles make them move. They know their legs get sore after a long run, and they know lifting something heavy makes their arms shake. But very few people actually understand how this entire system works together as a single coordinated machine. So, what exactly is it? Skeletal muscle is the tissue attached to your bones by tough rope-like tendons, and it's the reason you can walk, wave, blink, or even hold your head up right now. There are more than 600 of these muscles packed throughout your body, and together they make up somewhere between 40 and 50% of your total body weight, making skeletal muscle the single largest tissue you have. If you zoomed out and looked at your whole body as a machine, this is the part doing almost all of the physical work. Every single movement, big or small, traces back to this system. Think of it as a small city's worth of tiny engines, all wired to the same control center and ready to fire the instant they're told to. Some of these engines are enormous, like the gluteus maximus in your hips, the single largest muscle in your entire body by volume. Others are almost invisibly small, like the stapedius tucked inside your middle ear, just over 1 millimeter long, yet responsible for protecting your hearing from painfully loud sounds. Between those two extremes sits everything else: muscles built for raw power, muscles built for fine precision, and muscles built to just quietly hold you upright all day without you ever noticing them. How does a thought turn into a movement? Now let's talk about where movement actually starts. And here's something that surprises a lot of people. Movement doesn't begin in your muscles at all. It begins in your brain. The moment you decide to pick up a cup of coffee, your brain sends an electrical signal racing down your spinal cord and out along a nerve cell called a motor neuron. That motor neuron doesn't stop at the edge of the muscle. It actually reaches directly onto individual muscle fibers at a tiny junction point, almost like a plug connecting into a wall socket. The moment that signal arrives, it triggers a chemical chain reaction that releases calcium inside the fiber, and that calcium is the spark that sets everything else in motion. Without that one nerve signal, your muscle simply sits there, fully capable of contracting, but waiting for permission it hasn't received yet, the hidden machinery, how a muscle actually shortens. After the signal arrives and calcium floods in, we get to the real engine room, the part happening at a scale far too small to see with the naked eye. Each muscle fiber is packed with thousands of smaller strands called myofibrils, and each of those is built from repeating segments called sarcomeres, the true building blocks of contraction. Inside every sarcomer are two kinds of protein filaments, a thinner one called actin and a thicker one called myosin. When calcium arrives, tiny myosin heads reach out and grab onto the actin filaments, almost like thousands of little hooks. They pull, release, and reach again in a rapid ratcheting motion, dragging the actin filaments closer together with every pull. This process is called the sliding filament mechanism, and it's the reason muscles shorten instead of expanding when they contract. The filaments themselves never change length. They simply slide past one another, pulling the ends of the muscle closer together, the way a rope pulls two points together when it's reeled in. Multiply that tiny pulling motion across millions of sarcomeres stacked end to end, and you get enough force to lift a barbell, sprint down a track, or simply stand up from a chair. Not all muscle fibers are built the same. Here's the path your body actually takes when deciding which fibers to use for which task. Deep inside every muscle, you'll find a mix of two main fiber types, and the ratio between them is largely set before you're even born. Slow-twitch fibers are built for endurance. They contract with less force but can keep going for a very long time without tiring, which is exactly why the muscles running along your spine that hold you upright all day are packed with them. Fast-twitch fibers are built for power. They contract explosively but burn out quickly, which is why sprinting hard or throwing a punch relies heavily on them. Most of your muscles contain a roughly even blend of both types, though the exact mix varies depending on genetics and the specific job a muscle is built to do. This is part of why some people naturally lean toward long-distance running, while others naturally excel at short, explosive bursts of power. Their underlying fiber makeup is quietly tilted one way or the other. The support team, tendons, and connective tissue, as signals, calcium, and sliding filaments do their work, several structures work quietly behind the scenes without ever contracting themselves. Tendons anchor muscle to bone, transferring every bit of force a muscle generates directly into movement at the joint. Layers of connective tissue wrap around individual fibers, bundle them into groups called fascicles, and then wrap the whole muscle in one final protective sheath, holding everything together the way insulation and casing hold the wires of a cable in place. None of these structures are part of the contracting tissue itself, but without them, all that pulling force generated deep inside the muscle would have nowhere to go. How the whole system stays coordinated. You might be wondering how so many muscles manage to work together in perfect timing without you ever having to think about it. The answer lies in your nervous system constantly coordinating groups of fibers called motor units, a single motor neuron in every fiber it connects to. Fine, precise movements like blinking or writing rely on small motor units where one nerve controls just a handful of fibers, while powerful movements like squatting rely on large motor units where a single nerve can command thousands of fibers at once. Your brain also fires more motor units the harder a task demands, which is why lifting a pencil feels effortless while lifting a couch takes visible full-body effort. The three main jobs of skeletal muscle. So now that we've covered all of the parts, let's bring it together. Skeletal muscle has three main jobs that it performs every single day of your life. The first job is movement, contracting and pulling on bones to produce everything from a subtle finger tap to a full sprint. The second job is posture and stability, quietly staying partially contracted for hours at a time so you can sit, stand, and hold your head up without collapsing. The third job is heat production, since the very act of contracting burns energy and releases warmth, which is part of why shivering, essentially rapid, tiny muscle contractions, is one of your body's fastest ways to warm back up in the cold. It's worth briefly mentioning how important it is to keep this system healthy, since muscle-related issues remain one of the most common physical complaints people deal with. Conditions like muscle strains, where fibers are stretched or torn beyond their limit, cramps, where a muscle involuntarily locks into a sustained contraction, and age-related muscle loss known as sarcopenia, all stem from disruptions somewhere along this system of nerves, fibers, and connective tissue. Even something as simple as inactivity or inadequate protein intake can gradually weaken the system over time. This is part of why doctors so often emphasize regular movement, strength training, and adequate rest, because so much of your long-term mobility and independence depends on keeping this system running smoothly. Wrapping it up, there you have it. The human skeletal muscle system, a remarkable network of over 600 muscles working every single day to keep you moving. It begins with a single signal from your brain, relies on microscopic filaments sliding past one another to generate force, calls on different fiber types depending on the task at hand, and leans on a quiet support team of tendons and connective tissue holding everything together behind the scenes. The nerves, the fibers, the tendons, and the connective tissue all work together as part of this system to keep your body strong, stable, and in motion. Skeletal muscle may be something you rarely think about, but with every single step, lift, and blink, it's working hard behind the scenes to keep you moving. Thanks for watching, and Biomed Explorer uploads a new science video every day. Please subscribe and share.